Good day to each and everyone. I'm Alvin J. Tahaji, BSIT 1F, and I'll be performing today on how to solve the unsorted array using three types of sorting algorithms, which is the insertion sort, the selection sort, and the quick sort. But before we dive into the three types of sorting algorithms, allow me to give you a short introduction for you to further know what is sorting algorithms. Sorting algorithms are like sets of step-by-step instructions that tells a computer how to arrange a collection of items into a specific order. Now, there are many types of sorting algorithms, but in our case, we are asked to make or choose only three sorting algorithms that will likely to demonstrate on how to solve the unsorted arrays that will be given later on. So without any further ado, let's dive into the first sorting algorithms. First one, we have the selection sort. This algorithm sorts an array by repeatedly finding the smallest or largest element from the unsorted part and putting it at the beginning of the unsorted part. In other words, swapping of numbers, whether ascending or descending. Think of it like arranging an apple, placing them in their proper places, whether biggest to smallest or of smallest to the biggest. Now let's dive into the sorting part. Now in the selection sort, we have the initial array of 20, 8, 10, 2, 7, and 1. Now we'll try to sort it in ascending order. First, we have the iteration 1, choosing what's the minimum number or the smallest number. Now we have here the number 1 and 20. Since 1 is the minimum number, we will swap the 20 and 1. So first iteration 1, swap the 20 and 1. Now for iteration number 2, we will choose the second minimum number, which is the number 2. 2 is less than 8, so magsaswap tayo. So iteration 2, swap 2 and 8. Now for iteration number 3, the minimum found here is 7. So 7 is less than 10, so we will swap the 7 and 10. Now, since 20 is already greater than 10, therefore, there will be no swapping na mangyayari. Therefore, this is the final output. That's how easy it is. It's like changing them with their positions. Now, let's dive into the insertion sorts. Insertion sorts works gradually, building a sorted portion of the array. It takes elements from the unsorted part and inserts them into their correct position. Think of it like adding cards, one by one, to a sorted sequence you're holding in your hand. Now let's dive into the sorting part. Now here in insertion sort, we have the initial array of 20, 8, 10, 2, 7, and 1, same as the first problem. Now, from each term insertion or insert, in this process, we would choose the two first elements and insert them if the first one is greater than the second elements. So in this part, we have the first elements, which is the 20 and the 8. So in this part, we will insert the 8 into the front of the 20. Now for iteration 1, let's insert the 8 into the front of 20. Now for the second iteration, we will compare the 10 and 20. Since 10 is less than 20, therefore the 10 must be inserted in front of 20. So for iteration number 2, insert 10 to in front of 20. Now for iteration number 3, the fourth element, which is the number 2, is the one who will be sorted. In this part, we will insert number 2 into the front. So for iteration number 3, 2 will be inserted into the front. And Now for the fourth iteration, we will pick the number 7, which will be sorted in the front between the 2 and the 8. So for iteration number 4, let's insert the 7 in front of the 8. Ayan. Now for the last iteration, we will pick the last number, which is the number 1. And we will insert it in the front since siya ang pinaka-minimum na number. Now, for the iteration number 5, we'll insert the number 1 into the front or the first element. Now, since wala nang natira para insert, the iteration stop at iteration number 5, wherein ito na ang ating final output. Now, we have the 1, 2, 7, 8, 10, and 20 out of the previous initial array of 20, 8, 10, 2, 7, and 1. Now, that's how we do the insertion sort process. Now, let's move on to the quick sorts. Now, unlike the two previous sorting algorithms, this one solves using the divide and conquer process. By what it means, it's like dividing the elements into two parts and selecting its pivot or pivot. And the process will continue to divide and divide, choosing another pivot by another pivot to sort and to bring all those unsorted arrays into their proper places. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the sorting part. Now, here in our part, we have the initial array or the unsorted array of 20, 8, 10, 2, 7, and 1. Same as the two previous sorting algorithm problems. Now, we'll try to solve them using the quick sort process. First one is we have to choose the pivot. You could either choose the pivot from the first or the 20, or the pivot in the middle or the 10, or the pivot in the last, wherein the number 1. But here in my place, I will choose the pivot number 10 because it lies between the middle of the 20 and the 1 and make my sorting process become more easy. Now, with all that being said, let's choose 10 as our first pivot or main pivot. And now, we will try to divide or separate the numbers that are less from the 10, which is ilalagay natin sa left, and the numbers greater than 10 is ilalagay natin sa right. And so at this part, we will try to compare the first element, which is the 20 on the left part and the 1 on the right part. Now, since 1 is less than 10, therefore, it must be moved to the left. And since the 20 is greater than 10, therefore, it must be moved to the right. In short, the 20 and 1 must swap for the first iteration. And now, since the first and the last is now in their proper places, let's try to compare the second element on the left and the second element on the right, which is yung 8 and yung 7. Since 8 is less than 10, it stays on the left side. And because 7 is less than 10, therefore, it must be moved to the left side too. So in this part, let's move the 7 into the left side. Now in this part, we will try to compare the last element left sa right side, which is yung number 2. So in this part, 2 is less than 10, so therefore, belong siya sa left side. So in this part, we will move the 2 into the left side. Now, in this part naman, since everything is now in their proper places, the smallest numbers is in the left side and the largest numbers is on the right side. But it is not yet sorted, no? It is not yet perfectly sorted. So in this part, we have to divide the left part, no? We have to choose the pivot again sa left part para isort ang left part natin. On the right part naman, we no longer need sa right part since already sorted na siya. Already nasa place na ang 20. There's no more need to sort the right part. So we just need to move the 20 and the 10 aside for now for us to sort the left side. Ngayon, sa part na to, we will choose another pivot and what I chose is number 2. So let's put 2 up as our pivot. Now in this part, we have the left side and the right side. The place for right side is for the numbers that are greater than 2 and the left side is for the numbers that are less than 2. So at this part, let's compare the first element in the pivot. Since 1 is less than 2, it will remains on its place. Now, the second element we will try to compare is the number 8. Since 8 is greater than 2, therefore the 8 must be moved into the right side. So at this point, let's move the 8 to the right side. Now, since it is in its proper places, let's try to compare the last element, which is the 7. Now, 7 is greater than 2. So, therefore, 7 must be also placed in the right side. So, at this moment, let's move the 7 to the right side. And now, since 7 is now in its final place, the pivot is also now on its final place. So let's drag it down. So at this part, we will try to merge all of the numbers. Ayan. So at this part, everything is now on its proper place. So this is the final output. The first pivot was 10 and our second pivot was 2, and this is the final result. And now to wrap it all up, what is the difference between selection sort, insertion sort, and quick sort? The main difference between these three is no other than their process. With the selection sort that finds the minimum number and swap it with the first element, the insertion sorts that compare the first element and the second element and swaps with what is the minimum with changes in their positions, and the quick sort that uses the divide and conquer method, or to separate the small numbers and the large numbers. Now that's all my presentation for today. I am Alvin J. Tahaji, BSIT 1F. Thank you so much.